And let's do some other stories now, still COVID related. A study by a group of researchers from the KNUST, University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast, and the University of Education Winneba concluded that most people do not wash their hands in accordance with the WHO standards of not less than 20 seconds per hand wash. Interestingly, some people living in Ghana were not practicing frequent hand washing with soap and the running water in a day before the COVID-19 pandemic as compared to during the COVID-19 period as we have it now. However, a decline in the frequent washing of hands in a day is likely to be observed in the country after the COVID-19 pandemic period. If this trend continues, then there's the likelihood of Ghanaians and non-Ghanaians becoming more exposed to not only COVID-19 diseases, but also to all diseases associated with personal hygiene or hand washing. Now, this may result in high fatalities in diseases pertaining to personal hygiene, and that's all in the research that we have now. Let's get more on this from the researchers, and I'm joined by phone by the lead researcher, Francis Minta Dazi, who is a graduate student at the Department of Biochemistry and Biotechnology, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He's on Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us. Where was the research conducted and within which period?
Okay, thank you very much. This research was conducted by postgraduate students. These postgraduate students are found across the entire country. That is KNUST, UCC, University of Ghana, EWW, that is postgraduate student doing masters and PhD. And this study was conducted during this COVID season or COVID-19 pandemic season. And then we tried to look at, we all know that hand washing is one of the predominant ways or means that we can prevent ourselves from contracting the virus. So what we did was I wanted to see whether people were washing their hands before the COVID-19 season, and then during the COVID-19 season, and then after the COVID-19 season too. We want to see whether people will frequently wash their hands. So that is what informed our decision into this whole research.
Okay, so your finding is that we have a lot more people not washing their hands post-COVID-19. Even as we have it, the finding is saying that not many are doing it according to the WHO standards. We'll talk a little bit about that shortly, but let's talk about the methodology and the sample size. I know you did a quantitative approach, but tell us a bit more about it. Quantitative.
Okay, what we did was we used a multi-stage sampling technique where we considered the various regions across the country, and we tried to look at respondents. That is a total respondent of 1,042. So that is the total respondent that we had for the study. And what we did was that we used
1,042 across the country?
40, yes, please, 1,042 across the country.
Okay.
Yeah, so we administered questionnaire to them. Some were done during the lockdown period, so we had to use the online method for that one, and then some too was done before the lockdown period. So what we did was we administered the questionnaire to them by handing it over to them, and then they responded as usual.
There's something interesting about the social demographics in this, and I want you to highlight that for me. For instance, with a gender, there's something interesting I see there. There's also education. If you could just take it one, let's start with education. And what did you find with persons who are educated as compared to those who are not or less educated?
Okay, so what we found was that the females were more likely to engage themselves in hand washing or frequent hand washing, but the males were more likely adamant to the washing of their hands frequently. So this creates a problem, and we all know that men are always known to be people who normally like taking risk. So that is what we can attribute to that. But what we want to entreat males is that they have to engage in hand washing as well. And then those who had gone to school, that is, those who have had some level of education, we realize that those people wash their hands frequently as compared to those who haven't attended any school before, or those with no formal education, as our study captured it. So what we also realized was that those people who are within the ages of 21 and 40 years, those people who are within the ages of 21 and 40 years are less likely to wash their hands frequently. But those below the 20 years and then those above 60 years, that is the old aged and then the young aged group, we saw that they were frequently washing their hands. And
I find that very interesting. 21 to 40 not washing their hands. Why is that? Is it because the perception is that because this is an immune system, battle, and perhaps these group or people think that they are strong enough to deal with the disease? Is that it? What reasons are assigned to this?
Yeah, exactly. So those age group or those within that age group normally feel nothing can harm them, and they are in for business. They are going all their way out. They will not let someone to dictate life for them. They already know what life entails. But you realize that those within the lower age bracket, they feel like they have more years ahead of them. They have a lot to achieve. So why don't they engage themselves in frequent hand washing and prevent themselves from being infected with the virus? And those aged group, we all know that in our Ghanaian community, the old aged normally are afraid of dying. So they usually engage in this frequent hand washing more than those within the age bracket of 41 and 21 and 40.
And that is quite worrying, because that is really the active population bracket of the country. What are your recommendations on following the findings that you have?
Okay, so what we are recommending now is that more education. We all know that the media is taking their part or making a lot of impact in sensitizing the Ghanaian populace in frequent hand washing. And we also know that the government is also putting in much effort to help people engage themselves in frequent hand washing. However, the problem now has left with we, the individuals, to have a change of mind and a change of attitude to frequent hand washing. And when we have this change of mind and change of attitude, we will definitely make this whole thing subside, in the sense that so what we recommend is that the education should be intensified. That is one. And then also, as individuals, we need to try as much as we can to change our attitudes and then frequently wash our hands. But one question that I always ask is that when we go around now, we always see the Veronica bucket and then the liquid soaps or the soaps around or at workplaces. The question I'm asking is that, are we going to continue this system forever? Because what we recommend now is that organizations need to continue this system so that frequent hand washing will become part of us. Because we also realize in the study that those who are non-Ghanaians normally frequently wash their hands than those who are Ghanaians. And the notion that we cannot draw is that most of them are living here alone. So they don't have families and they are afraid of dying. They don't have anything. So they have to prevent themselves from contracting the virus. But we, the Ghanaians, are so much adamant sometimes in washing our hands.
And I must commend you, Francis, and the team for doing this research at a period when we have schools shut down and most of the things moved online. How are studies going for you and the rest of your colleagues?
Okay, by God's grace, everything is going on well. I'm a PhD student, and we did it with some masters and then PhD students as well. And we are all going through that season of using online studies. I've been doing presentations online, and I've been also submitting some form of assignments and then some form of term papers online. So, but it has been good, just that some people are facing challenges. And what we want to entreat the university authorities, that is all the universities across the country, is that they have to try as much as they can to provide bundle, that is internet bundle for students, and so that they can at least feel some form of relief in their quest of achieving academic excellence. So that is what we want to say.
Francis, thank you very much for your time here on NewsDesk. Francis Minta is the lead researcher. He led a group of students, graduate students from the University of Ghana, KNUST, UCC, University of Education, Winneba, to conduct some research on hand washing. And of course, we shared those details with you and their findings from that research. Now, so you have less than 3 times, so that's the figure, 54% doing less than 3 times of hand washing. You have 36.4, 3 to 6 times. Also, we have 7 to 10 times, that's 7.6, and then more than 10 times, 2%. So a lot more people are not doing the hand washing and not doing it right, you know, per the WHO standard. And this one also says frequent hand washing before COVID. So before that, yes, we had 57.1, and then no, we have 42.9. Now, knowledge of treatment of COVID-19 disease. Yes, we have 29.4 and no 70.6. A lot more people still not well educated or armed enough with information on the treatment of COVID-19. And of course, he mentioned there that a lot more education has to happen. And then this one is on the knowledge of COVID-19, the general knowledge of COVID-19. And it is worrying. Okay, so at least we have a good number of people, 99.5%, who are aware. There's still some 0.5% who fairly do not have an idea of what we are dealing with this global pandemic. Now, on the screens, you also see that number of seconds used in washing hands per hand wash, more than 20 seconds, and the response there, 46.1, and that is good because you're supposed to do at least 20 seconds. Now, 10 to 20 seconds, we have 35.7. It can be better. And then, of course, less than 10%, 18, and that is worrying. And of course, this research was done across the country, all 16 regions, with over 1,000 sample size.